Hi there, this is Chrissi from Total Fluency and it's the end of week 9. So as you all know, I'm following the Total Fluency Accelerated Language Learning Programme, and that's been refined over many years, and we know that it works. So if I stick to the programme, the good news is I've got nothing to worry about. However, because we're all different, one of the things the programme will be doing is monitoring my progress, and it's going to help me identify if I have any weak areas or if I'm starting to drift off course. And this week, that's exactly what the system's done. It's identified that there is a problem in my learning, so when we look at my statistics together today, what I want to do is break out that fluency unit's number so that you can understand how we've identified the problem at hand. So you can see that I've acquired 1,465 fluency units, which means I'm ahead of schedule for the end of week 9, having now completed 30 hours of study. The interesting thing here is that my test score has now dropped below 80%, and that's the indicator that there's a problem. Fortunately for me, the Total Fluency system allows quite detailed analysis of my study time on the fluency units, and it's already identified the group of verbs which is causing me trouble, and it's a group of verbs which have quite similar prefixes and a number of different similar or related compound words. So Bruce and I will be addressing these particular group of verbs over the next week, and I should be back on track soon. And of course, I promise to report in to you next week and let you know how I'm getting on. One of the great things about the Total Fluency system is that we're able to identify these problems quite early on, and that allows for a number of different things. Firstly, it's allowed me to identify this problem before it becomes any bigger than it already is. But the second thing is, because we've identified it early, it's going to give me more time to deal with the problem before I hit anything scary like an exam or a deadline. And then lastly, of course, and most importantly, is it allows us to identify the problem and deal with it before it starts affecting the skills that I'm building in German and my motivation and my confidence. So that's really key. Whilst we're on the topic of skills, let's have a look at my reading assessments and see how I'm getting along. So here's my week 5 reading assessment, and as you can see, back in week 5, I had a 46% coverage. In week 9, and I've repeated this same reading assessment, and as you can see, my coverage has gone up to 56%. That's partly because I've increased my vocabulary, so I know more words. But if you're learning language the right way, you'll also be increasing your ability to guess words based on the patterns that you know and the words that will then make up compound words. And that's my tip for you this week. When you come across a word that you don't recognise when you're reading, don't forget to look at breaking it down. Consider the suffixes and the prefixes that you've already learned, and even some of the words that you've learned that you might recognise as part of a word that you're unsure of. Like this one, for example. This word starts with the word selbst, we can see, which means self. The middle word in there is zufrieden, which means satisfied, and I can see that the suffix is heit, which means ness. So essentially I can translate this word, having never learnt it before, as self-satisfiedness, or in better English, self-satisfaction. So as a second point of reference, just to see how I'm getting on with my language skills, we're going to go back to the Goethe Institute test that I did online. Now I did this right back at the beginning in week 0, I did it again in week 4, and I've done it again this week at the end of week 9. As you can see, the number of unanswered questions is dropping, which is great, and the answered correctly is rising, showing clear progress. So I think that's all we've got time for this week, and I'll see you next week.